Hello everyone, welcome to the Lalantia show. Today I'm coming on to do a video about doing inner child work with the fairies. So I kind of worked, I was trying to figure out how I should title this because it is healing, but I also want it, so much of the energy is more of a letting go. So I decided to just put it as doing inner child work because I think that kind of covers everything, but you can see what you think as we go through this. So if you're new to me, my name is Lalantia. I'm a psychic realm channeler and energy healer, and I specialize in working with the magical realms. So I work with fairies, I work with dragons, unicorns, mermaids, all different kinds of magical beings, and these amazing energies that are here to support us on our journey. A lot of this work that I do with my clients, it's not only this, but it includes doing inner child work. And fairies are some of the most amazing ones for doing the inner child work. Now, kind of the whole of what I do ends up in this one, this area, and that is the connection to your true self, being your most authentic self. And everything that I do is about you being able to be your most authentic self, to let go of this world of what society has told you to be, who society has told you to be, how you have been told you need to show up in the world. Now, this is so connected to our inner child because when we are born, we come into this world, we immediately are told what our truths are. We don't have an opportunity to form our own truths or to be connected to our own truths. Most of the time we are told that this and this and this is real and the rest of this isn't real. And when we talk about fairies or other things that we're told, oh, that's not real, it's just our imagination. And so from before we even remember, we know that that's not acceptable. It's not okay to believe in all of these things. Now, since you have come to this video, either you are open-minded enough or have already connected with fairies, or maybe not, and you're going to leave some comment about I'm a crazy person, and that's okay too. But this is for those that are ready to do this work or have been doing this work and need a little bit more guidance in it. So when I have been doing my videos on fairies, there's so many different videos that I can do about fairies, and I have done some so far, and I'll post them below. But today I tuned in and they told me to talk about doing inner child work. So with the fairies, specifically with the fairies. So a lot of inner child work can be done with the unicorns as well. And some of the things kind of, you can work with both, or you can work with all kinds of different beings because everybody's different what energies you resonate with. But unicorns and fairies are some of the most common for doing inner child healing work. So today's video is definitely I'm kind of like the main points I'm going to go over, but there are definitely some things that I'm not going into, and there could be a part 2 at some point in time. But the main thing that I want to talk about is first the thing that I had already mentioned, that our inner child is, first of all, our inner child is a part of us. Our inner child is that part of us that was a child, that grew up being told this and this and this, or being taught, to believe particular ways or to not believe particular ways. And that inner child has been through so much different trauma and different experiences and was most likely never allowed to be truly authentic. Now, you may feel like you're authentic, but I bet that there's bits and pieces of you that you haven't really discovered yet or haven't uncovered, and that's okay. We're always finding out more of who we are as we go, and my whole thing is to let the walls fall and let us just step outside of all of the boxes that society puts us in. So our inner child has lots of this trauma and just wants to be loved and accepted. And so the fairies are really amazing in lots of different ways. But before I talk about how the fairies can be amazing for helping you with your inner child, I have to tell you a little bit about fairies. Now, this is a tiny, tiny bit about fairies, but you can go check out my video about fairies, and I will post that in the link or in the description below. But Fairies are, when on Earth, when they're here to take care of the Earth, and that is their thing. But we also have fairies that show up as our guides. Now, our fairies that show up as our guides are the ones that we're most likely going to work with in regards to doing our inner child work. So yes, you can go out into nature. You can set the intention to connect with fairies that are of the highest and best good, the deepest of love, the highest of integrity, and you can tune into them and start connecting with them. But my advice would be to meditate somewhere and call in your fairy guides, your specific guides that are here to help you with connecting to your inner child and doing your inner child work. Now, it is most likely that if you're watching this video, there are going to be fairies that will show up for you. So don't worry about whether you even have fairy guides. Just trust that you do. And this is something I work with my clients in all the time. So if this is something you struggle with on your own and you want to go deeper, I do have sessions available. You can reach out to me. And the link to my website is in the description below. So the fairies that you want to talk to and work with for the inner child work are your guides. So once again, you still want to set the intention that you're going to connect with the guides that are the highest and best good, the deepest of love, and the highest of integrity. You don't want to just connect with any old fairies that are going to show up for you. Now, fairies don't always look, they rarely look the way we expect them to look. And so allow how you expect them to look to kind of fall away and allow them to look however they look. Feel into their energy and what feels right to you. Now, if something feels wrong, just ask them to leave and push them out of your energy. You don't have to accept anything in that doesn't feel right to you. It is so important to be connected to your own intuition when you are connecting with guides, because your intuition is going to tell you whether it's right or not. But if you're not connected to your intuition, you're not going to be able to actually tell. So this is why it's so important that you do your work to be able to connect with any guides. And I always hesitate to tell people to connect to guides when they don't know how to do it properly. But I'm going to trust that you know the process, and then you're not going to connect with just any old energy willy-nilly. So the next thing is, these fairy guides are here to help you specifically. So it's most likely they're not really going to be working with others, and they will help you continuously. It's not necessarily a one and done deal. Now, your inner child needs your love and attention all the time. You need to be making time and space to connect with your inner child regularly. Now, this can be lots of different things. It can be through going and swinging at the park. It can be connecting in meditation. It can be while doing creative activities, but your inner child wants to be a part of your life. Now, your inner child was likely told lots of different things that is not true for them, that they have a hard time knowing what is authentic and what is right. So this is where, when you connect to your inner child, you can let your inner child know that it is okay and it is safe, and that you are ready to connect to your own, I'll use the word magic, your own authentic self. And when you were little, and maybe before your conscious memory, you probably believed in magic, and you probably believed in fairies, and you probably believed in a lot of different things before the world told you that you can't believe in those things. So that's why fairies are so amazing for doing inner child work. Now, fairies are all about, when they come in as guides for your inner child to help you with your inner child, they're all about letting go and allowing yourself to be free in who you are. So this can look lots of different ways, but it's about releasing this heaviness to be able to be free, like when you go and you swing at the park and you say wee as you fly on the swing. That's letting go. That's allowing yourself to be. That's allowing yourself to enjoy that moment. Your inner child likely really needs this, and there may be some deeper trauma that keeps you from doing that, and that's a whole other thing. But we're talking about normal stuff here. But anything is normal, honestly. Like, I'm saying normal stuff here. I feel like I'm just kind of like coating the top of, or talking about the top of all of these things that can go so much deeper, but it's hard to go deeper because everybody's different. So that's why I work with people individually, so that we can go deeper into your own things, because it's so different. If you grew up in a home where you didn't have enough food, then you could have trauma around food. If you grew up in a home where your parents fought all of the time, then you have trauma around that. So all of these different traumas are different for everybody. So the healing that you need to do for your inner child is going to look different for each person. This is like the basic thing that most everybody needs to some degree, but you may struggle to do that if your inner child is hiding and doesn't want to come out. But let's say your inner child isn't hiding and is coming out to play. So these are the things that you want to do. You want to connect with the fairies so that you can have a lighter outlook on life, so that you can let go of some of that heaviness and enjoy life, so that you can be free to be authentically you, so that you can show up in the world as your true self. Like I said, you can do this in meditation. You can do this when you go out and sit in nature, whatever works for you. I would suggest starting with meditation though. So when you were a child, you were likely very passionate about something or many things. Especially as children, we often get very passionate about lots of different things, and it may seem silly as an adult, but as a child, you were really passionate about some things. I would encourage you to look back at some of those things that you were passionate about if you can remember. There's a lot of things I don't remember from when I was a child, and that's normal as well. And remember that you can have trauma from a childhood and not have had a what you consider to be a traumatic childhood. You may have felt like you had a pretty normal childhood. You can still have trauma. You do still have some kind of trauma from childhood. It may not be the big things that you may think of when you think of trauma, but you can have trauma because somebody told you to be quiet, or you can have trauma because you were told that you had to wait before you could eat that food that was sitting on the table. Like, it's these things that may seem silly, but as a child, you took it very personally. So to find more play again, the fairies want to help you find what play is. They're going to help lift this heaviness so that you can play. Now, playing can be like going and playing at the playground. Play can be singing, like singing freely, just being silly with your voice, that kind of thing. Being creative. So it can be coloring in a coloring book. It can be painting a picture. It can be drawing something, whatever it is for you. But when you were a child and you had passions, what were these passions and how can you connect that with you now? And how can you nurture that energy and see what feels like it still resonates, right? So if you were really passionate as a child about drawing, but then you stopped drawing because it seemed like a waste of your time, well, why don't you start drawing again and see how it feels now? Maybe play around with that a little bit, try some different things. So when you were a child, you were told that you couldn't be authentic, basically. And so now it's about allowing yourself to be authentic. And a lot of times we don't know who we are, so we don't know how to be authentic. And this is where the fairies come in. They can help you to access more of your authenticity. And that means dropping the conditioning that this world has put on you. And that's kind of where it begins. But if you do journeys or you do meditations with the fairies, and they can go with you to these different, how do I describe this? So personally, for myself, when I was doing some really deep inner child stuff and learning to let go and allow myself to be authentic, I was brought to, or I was shown this island, and I would go to this island and I would be with the fairies and the mermaids and the dolphins and my dragon guides, and we would all play together on this island. And so that would be like, I would swim in the ocean around the island. There was this cave where my dragon would sit in like the upper level of this cave, and then the water came down as a waterfall and came into a pool of water underneath, and I would like slide down my dragon and then jump from the top of the waterfall into the pool of water below, and we would swim and we would laugh and we would play. And it's so unlike me, like in this world, like letting go like that is really hard for me. I've never been able to do that, and I grew up in a home that was very strict. We weren't really allowed to have an imagination. We weren't allowed to really let go and be free in our expression of ourselves. And so that's what this was about for me. So doing meditations like that, and allow yourself to just imagine and use your imagination for your meditation, visualize all of these different things, or allow them to show you however it needs to work for you. It's recognizing these different things as a child that may have kept you stifled and learning how you can let them go. So if you talk to your inner child and your inner child is like, well, I was never allowed to say what I really felt about this particular thing, then you can talk to your inner child about how now you're safe. You are safe to express that to the world or to a certain person or whatever it may be. Now the fairies will help you in that by coming forward and allowing you to see and feel that your authentic expression of yourself is okay, that it is safe. They will help to lift that heaviness. Now, I keep kind of coming back to this. They will help lift the heaviness. One thing that I have seen quite a few times when I'm doing inner child healing with the fairies is they will lift this energy off of you that kind of looks a bit like spider webs. It's a little bit sticky, and they kind of pull these webs off of you. So they'll do that healing as they like clear this energy that's kept you kind of stuck in repeating patterns from when you were a child, and then you can begin to see a little bit more clearly. Now it can look different for everyone. That's my experience, so you may experience something similar to that. They're here to help you to let go of the struggle and to find trust again. So you learned when you were little that you couldn't trust. This could be something that you experienced. I'm going to say to some degree, everybody probably has, but you probably had experiences where you learned that you couldn't trust someone, something, or certain situations. Or like for me, I remember being told things like, if you do this work at home, then we're going to go and we're going to go do this fun activity. So then we would do that work because I wanted to do the fun activity, but then we wouldn't be able to. So I stopped trusting that I would actually be able to do the fun things, but I still had to do the housework no matter what, because otherwise I would be punished for not doing it. So I didn't really trust in the adults in my life. The things that they would tell me, I didn't ever trust that we would actually be able to have fun. I just figured life was going to be boring and I would just have to be stuck doing things that weren't fun for my whole life, and I would never be able to enjoy myself. And I started forming these beliefs that everything has to be hard and has to be a struggle, or I have to work really hard in order to get to receive anything, and then I still wouldn't receive it. So then I didn't ever trust that I would actually receive what I wanted. So I have worked with my inner child and the fairies in communicating about how that is okay to trust again. It is okay to let go of that struggle and recognize that I can have these things that I want or the experiences that I desire. And the last thing that I have on my list is to feel like a free spirit again, to let yourself feel free. And that's really what we all want to feel, right? We all want to feel that freedom. We all want to feel that we can go out into the world and do the things we love to do, to express ourselves freely, to go the places we want to go, but just to feel freedom, right? We all want to feel that freedom. So I suggest doing some work with your inner child, communicating with your inner child about what their needs are. So, like going into meditation, I usually there's a few different things, there's so many different things that you can do, but you can go into your heart space and connect with your inner child. You can go into a meditation, connect with your inner child in a garden. Oftentimes I'm brought to a garden. It's like a walled garden, and it's so beautiful, full of these amazing plants and all kinds of fairies. And sit with your inner child and ask your inner child, what is it that you need? What is it that you are feeling right now? What is it that I can help you with? What is it that you want to do? And ask these different questions so that you can incorporate more of these activities into your life. And this is what is going to help you in your inner child work. Also, when your inner child has different wounds to heal, it's important to recognize what these things are. So you can look at events in your childhood that were traumatic type events, but sometimes we just don't know what those are. So that's why connecting with your inner child, you can get a feel for what your inner child is really feeling. If you connect with them as a person, as a child in front of you, and communicate with them and feel into what they are feeling, however you perceive energy, then you can find out what direction you need to go in that work with them. Now, I feel like I could talk so much more about doing inner child work, but this video is just going to be way too long. So I may do an inner child meditation or something at some point. I don't know. But I do suggest, if you're having a hard time connecting with your inner child, to book a session with someone who does inner child work, whether it's with me or with someone else who resonates with you. But connecting with someone who can take you to connect with your inner child, help you to heal with your inner child, makes a huge difference. So I have several clients who have had really traumatic childhoods, and we were able to do work together to really deepen that healing process and much faster than they were doing on their own, but also to support that energy so that they were able to see things that they weren't really able to see on their own. And one thing that I have found really powerful too is that often I will communicate with their inner child for them because they struggle to receive that. Now, that only happens for a short while because I don't want to take your power away in that. So it's just enough to allow you to be able to communicate with your inner child or lift enough heaviness or to see aspects or things that you're not able to see on your own. So then when you do go in, you can receive more information. So if you are called to work with me, you can find that link below. But inner child work is extremely important, and working with the fairies, with the fairies on your inner child work is extremely powerful and magical. And your inner child will definitely find it much easier to start to step forward when the fairies are around, unless you have some sort of trauma around fairies, then maybe not. But yeah, so if you have any questions about this, like post your questions below. And then if I need to do another video to help me kind of identify what things people are still wondering about. Because there is like so much, there really is so much to go over in regards to this. But yeah, hopefully this helps you a little bit. Thank you so much for watching my video today. I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my email newsletter. The link is below. When you sign up, you will get 2 meditations. You will also receive a quiz that will give you, that will show you which magical beings you should be connecting with at this time for whatever work that you are doing with and on yourself. So I will see you on the next video.